Got a greenhouse? Need benches? Maybe you got some benches you need to fix? Maybe your poly's got algae growing all over it. We're going to cover all of that coming up. I'm Roger and welcome to the shop. Although I'm not actually in the shop, I'm out in one of our greenhouses. Mid-October, we're needing to do some maintenance on quite a few things. And I'm going to try to make this fairly short in here because I got the fans shut off right now. It's an unusually warm day, lots of sun. Makes it nice. What I'm going to be doing is showing you how I recover benches and how to clean greenhouse poly when you get algae on it. It's not as hard as you think it is. So I'll give you a little bit of a tour here on what these old benches look like. Then we'll get into how I build these here new ones, or at least resurface them. Maybe give you some ideas if you have a greenhouse, or maybe you want to make a outdoor plant bench, or just maybe a little portable outdoor workbench. We're going to cover it here. Okay, back when this greenhouse was built, been about 19 years ago, these are just treated 1x6s, and it was set up with horses every 10 feet, two 2x4s across it, and then the boards are nailed to it. And as you can see, they have really deteriorated over the years. This greenhouse gets a tremendous amount of use and production. It's mid-October now, so obviously we're not producing, but trying to get things ready for winter. And one of the things I needed to do was replace these bench tops and add a little bit more reinforcement. Another thing you'll notice here is the green on the plastic. Maybe you have a greenhouse and you get that. I'll go over on how to clean that off. It doesn't take any chemicals at all, just plain old water. And I'll be using a pressure washer, but you could also use a hose, and I'll show you a couple tricks to that. But one of the things I need to do is finish this side. This is the side that's been done already. I finished this one here up yesterday. And no, if you look down the line, it's not perfectly straight and it's not perfectly level, but we have humps in the ground, and this bench is 32 inches wide and 50 feet long. And there's one on the opposite side just like it. It's 32 inches wide. Now you notice the plastic over here has no green on it. That's because I washed it yesterday. And that algae comes off that poly very easy. The thing to do first is to wet it down, get it nice and wet. Let it sit for a minute or two, and pressure washer is ideal, but even a garden hose with a pressure nozzle on to give you a solid stream, it'll wash that right off. Don't by any means use bleach on greenhouse poly, because the chlorine in it will break down the polymers in the plastic and will greatly shorten the life of it. Another thing I'm doing when I do the other side here too is I've added more horses. Try to get down here where you can see one of them. These are the horses we use to support the benches, and this particular one has all new lumber on it because it had sagged real bad from some heavy loads that were on it, so hence the extra support in the middle. And yes, the floor is dirty. I need to get this all swept. There is landscape fabric down here, but things just kind of get out of hand here in the summer and in production, and then we don't always get the floors clean like we should. And I have a bad habit of, when I'm pruning, to just drop it on the floor. Then you end up with this mess, but then every fall I get to clean it up. Okay, I'll go over what you need to make one of these, what I like to call bench horses. You'll need 3 2x4s, the width of whatever your bench is going to be. So if it's, for example, these are 32 inches wide, so I have 3 32-inch pieces here. Then you'll need 4 legs. I'm making this particular one to end up with a final height of 24 inches. One of the neat things about these I-beam horses is it's easy to calculate the finished height. If you need a 24-inch high horse to the top and you cut your legs 24 inches long, by the time they splay out like this and sit, you'll have a 24-inch height. One thing I do, and you don't have to do this, but it makes for a lot better horse, is I cut a 12-degree angle on each end. Of course, one end is opposite of the other because they sit like this, and this part up here will sit into the flange of the horse, which you'll see here in a minute. That lets this sit flush on the ground and it isn't just sitting on the corner. The next thing you need to do then is mark on 2 of them, mark 1 inch in from each side, strike a line. That'll leave 1.5 inch piece in the center, and your center cord piece will be like this, and this will line up on it just like that. Now use 3-inch deck screws. Once you get one end in there, flip it around, get the other end lined up. This is recycled lumber here, by the way. That's why it doesn't look all new and green and shiny and all that. And depending on the length of your horse, will determine on how many screws you put down through the center. These 32-inch horses, I put 1 on each end and 1 in the center. These are extremely strong and will hold a lot of weight. I got a great big knot right on the end. That makes it handy. Well, for the legs, I do basically the same thing here with the screws. Okay, for the legs, if you're making sawhorses, I would set them in about 3.5 inches. But for these bench horses, I keep them right out to the end. And you can see here how that, well, maybe you can't. You'll see here how cutting that bevel makes this fit up tight against this. If it was just a square piece of wood, it'd be a little bit wonky on there. It does work, but this makes for a lot better product. Again, I'm using 3-inch deck screws. And you can split the leg just like that. And we'll use some additional screws on this one. Something else you're going to want to do is make sure your legs are square. And of course, try not to split your wood. If this was new wood, that probably wouldn't have happened because it'd be real wet. But this is probably 15, 20 years old. bottom set of screws in the legs, try to get them so they hit the upper part of the bottom cord. It's just a matter of flipping it over and doing the same thing on the other side. And just like that, you got a horse. There you can see where this bevel, having that bevel on there, makes this sit a lot nicer. Now, if you wanted a little extra strength, you could take a piece of plywood. It actually have to be treated plywood if it's going to be for outdoors, and lay it over there, or just trace around, cut it, put some screws here. That'll give it even more strength. This is not going to be for people walking on or running up and down, although I have been known to walk on the center bench in here. But it's mainly just to hold flats of plants, so this is plenty strong like it is. So this is what I go with. So as you can see, this wood has deteriorated quite a bit. It's had a lot of use, many years on it. And one of the things I noticed over this last summer, we were pulling flats, you kind of had to be careful because some of the boards aren't exactly connected too well anymore, and we were having problems with them coming off. So my next step is to start stripping all this top off. Okay, got this one all stripped down, got the other horse in there in the center like I wanted. I'm using some of the old top boards as a little bit of a support at the bottom so that the legs don't sink into the fabric like they did before. Then it'll help protect them a little bit, and if they wear out, I can put some pieces of concrete in there, blocks or bricks or whatever. The noise you hear in the background is the exhaust fan. It's blazing hot in here. So what you see here are the original style horses, these brackets at the top you see. You could buy those as a set and just add your own boards to it. This is what we used originally. The only problem I've had with them is that the carriage bolts are not galvanized and they will rust. And I've had a few completely rust off. I moved this bench out from the wall a little bit. You can see right here, there's a cut in the plastic, the poly right there. That's from a tray getting up too close to it. This part of the bench was actually too close to the wall, so I moved it out a little bit. And once I get this poly washed, I've got special tape that patches that. So what I do is I do this a section at a time. So this is the first 10-foot section, and I'll proceed to get my top boards put on. And it's nice to step outside for a few minutes. Nice cool breeze out here. It's about 71 out here, but it's about 85 in that greenhouse. I should turn a second fan on. Well, here's my boards. I got them all pre-cut, all 32-inch length, just pressure treated 1x6. Okay, 10 feet down. 40 feet to go. See here, I leave a gap in between my boards. It's anywhere from 1 inch to 1.5 inches. I don't measure it, I just eyeball it as I go down the line. And then each end gets 2 screws. If you were doing something, say 4 feet wide, I would have a center stringer down there. In this case, we don't need it. Nobody's going to be walking on it. It's just going to have flats of plants. And the other one held up for 19 years, so now onward to doing the rest of it. Well, a little something I discovered as I got back here to the end of this last bench was I had a unwelcome resident in here. And what you see here is where I had to fill back in a very large groundhog burrow. What I need to do now is find out where the other end of that burrow is and try to either trap that critter or get rid of it somehow. When I have to water this down to get it to settle, because there's a great deal of dirt he dug up, and as you can see, tore the landscape fabric up. Since this was back in the far corner, never noticed it all summer. Never saw him running around in here, but definitely don't need a groundhog in the greenhouse. Okay, got all this rebuilt except for that last little section down there where I got to get that groundhog burrow settled down and covered up good, and maybe put a concrete block or something back there so he doesn't come back. Next thing I'll be doing here after I finish that is getting the algae off of here, and I'll show you how I do that. hoping you got a little bit of something out of this. We do have 4 greenhouses, and we run a commercial greenhouse operation. That's what our e-commerce business is. And they take maintenance just like anything else, and over time things happen, you need to fix them. Wasn't prepared to have that uninvited guest in this particular greenhouse, but be going out when the weather improves a little bit here today, hopefully, and try to find the other end of that burrow and fill it up too, and maybe set a trap and relocate that critter someplace else, far away. Certainly don't need it around here. But if you got something out of this, if you need to build greenhouse benches, maybe clean greenhouse poly, maybe build an outside plant bench, outside workbench, this will give you some ideas. If you like that, we always appreciate getting a thumbs up. Of course, we're always looking for subscribers. And right next to that subscribe button is a little bell. If you click that bell, you'll be notified when we post another video. Otherwise, I'm Roger, not quite in the shop, but in one of our greenhouses, working on another project. We'll see you in the next one.